So Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny Remastered. It finally happened. After 6 or 7 years.
They were suddenly like, oh shit, we have another one of these coming out soon. We gotta remind people.
It sure has been an interesting decade for Onimusha.
There were 6 years between 6 or 7 years between Onimusha 1 and 2 HD. The anime came out, what, 2024?
23.
23.
Yeah.
And we have Onimusha, the new one, coming out in 26. So it's like, are they deliberately trying to like drip feed?
Yeah, I don't know. It's been very strange. I thought something was going to happen a lot sooner than this, but I'm glad it's happening at all, frankly. Okay, so we both ended up playing the Switch version.
I predominantly played it in handheld mode.
Probably for the best, with that weird lack of transparency filter over it, like everything is dithered in this game. It's really super noticeable on Switch, though. I went and looked at the PS4 and PC versions, 4K and all that, just to make sure. And yeah, it's there too. It's just if it's a lot smaller in comparison, but it's there in every version of the game. It's very strange. This game honestly kind of cries out for a good CRT filter because of that.
Are you all right?
I came from the original. You did not. So I get to compare this as a remaster and how it stacks up. And they put a lot more work into this one than they did Warlords. There is way more changes to this than I expected.
I like that checkpoint system. That checkpoint system definitely comes in handy.
Yeah, that's something the series always needed. One thing that's nice is they let you skip the cutscenes your first time through. Oh yeah, weapon switching, which I actually like a little less than I do in Warlords. In this one, you have to like completely stop before you can enter the animation to switch weapons. And you can't switch weapons until that animation is done. So it's actually a slower process. It's more understandable on a visual level, but it's not as snappy as it was in Warlords, so I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. The core gameplay, even though I don't like a lot of the gimmicks in this game, I don't care for having to buy stuff and gift stuff and figure out this esoteric friendship meter that the game never mentions. That core gameplay that it's built around, though, the hacking and slashing and fighting monsters, is arguably the best here than it is at any other point in the series.
Yeah, everything feels very responsive. The animation is great. The weapon variety is alright. I mostly stuck with the sword, Buraito.
Yeah, I'm a Barito man as well. In general, I really do think the fights are a lot of fun when you work in some Eastons, though. They pick up the pacing once so you're not like in fights forever, and it's really fun and satisfying to pull off.
This game will crowd you with a whole bunch of enemies in a way that the Resident Evil games don't.
Yeah, back when I first played this, I didn't know what Eason was. I was like, that's weird. How did that happen? A lot of people kind of come away from this thinking like, oh man, this game is a lot harder than the first one. It's because this game expects you to actually understand its mechanics that it never talks about. Whereas in Warlords, it's fine. You can easily go through that game blissfully unaware there's a way to just drop every enemy. In this one, they give bosses more health, they send more enemies at you, they want you to use that eSIN. I'm curious, what did you think of the new directional movement on the stick? Did you use it much?
I used it very intermittently because, I've been playing a lot of these types of games for quite a long time, so I'm more or less used to tank controls. They feel natural to me.
For me, I found them to be very awkward to use. I did not really use it. I'm way too used to the tank controls in this game. It's how it was built anyway.
I will say I really liked about this game is the visual flair. Right ever since the Resident Evil games, it feels like Capcom was sort of chasing this very cinematic visual style. With the Resident Evil games, like, okay, we want to look like a Hollywood action film, but also like a horror movie. And then as I was playing this game, I was looking at like the creatures, the machinery, the fucking robot horse. And I'm like, wow, this doesn't feel like Samurai Resident Evil. This feels like a tokusatsu film. And then I looked at the credits, and right there in it for character design, creature design, is Keita Amamiya. And I'm a huge fan of his. He's a director. He did the Zerum movies. He did Jetman. I could picture everything in this game as a tangible prop, as if it was going to be a prop in a film or a person in a costume. They all have that sort of like strong visual identity to them. And speaking of Hollywood and movies, so when this game first came out, I remember reading in magazines like, oh, the character Jubei is based on a real actor who's dead. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's strange. And much later on, I realized, okay, it's Yusaku Matsuda. And Yusaku Matsuda was an actor, a Japanese actor. He mostly did like gangster and kind of like crime movies. He didn't really do period piece films or samurai films or tokusatsu films. And also, not only was he dead, but he had died in like 1989, 1990. So he had already been dead for more than a decade by the time this game had come out. So it just makes it more puzzling why he's here. I mean, I guess if I had to assume why he's here, they were probably very deliberately like, we want this to feel like a movie. Like the first game had an actor who's a really cool, manly actor. He's like Yusaku Matsuda.
You know what I think about Onimusha 2 is it has some of the best pre-rendered backgrounds of any game.
Yeah, the environments are really gorgeous.
Is Capcom, near the end of its use of those pre-rendered backgrounds, they got insanely good at it. They had like the Onimusha 2 and the Resident Evil remake on GameCube. Like those backgrounds were just amazing, and they still look great.
I've heard some grumbling about how this new version of the game handled the backgrounds, that people thought they might have been AI upscaling, or that like they just didn't look right. In handheld mode on the Switch, I didn't have a problem with them, but also that's handheld mode on the Switch. It's, what, 720p?
I feel like this is a bit strange because this is a PS2 game, and even I know the Switch can do better than what we see with the backgrounds here. And again, if you play the PS4 or PC versions, backgrounds are much better. Yeah, they look like they've been AI upscaled, because, you know, Capcom, no game companies back then kept their assets. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this was kind of a rock and a hard place situation. I doubt Capcom just had all these assets laying around. They probably had no choice in this situation. So one cool thing about this new re-release HD version is that it has an art gallery mode, because every Capcom re-release has an art gallery mode. And so you can actually see Keita Amamiya's original character designs for everyone in the game, and how they sort of like evolved from the early concepts to later on. And then there's like the sketches from Capcom for pretty much like almost all the backgrounds and stuff. So if you're a sicko like me that really loves just poring over concept art, yeah, this is another great thing. I guess Capcom may not have held on to the assets for the backgrounds and what have you, but at least they held on to all the like concept art stuff. So Onimusha 1 was a fairly short game, but it felt tight. Like they knew what they wanted to get across. Onimusha 2 feels like they were like just kind of throwing shit at the wall, see what sticks. But because of that, it feels kind of like muddled in places.
I'd say one of the major criticisms the first game has always faced is that it's just a really short game. You're going to be done with it in like 3 to 4 hours your first time through. So I imagine that when they were making Onimusha 2 way back in the 2001, 2002, whenever it was in development, they were probably thinking, how do we get people to stick with this game? So they wanted systems in there that would add replayability. So things like the friendship system and the gift system would contribute a lot to that because it's kind of impossible to do everything.
So like I get it. They want all right, let's try some new stuff. Let's expand the cast. So now you have some other people you could play as. Great. But like some of them, they're not all created equal. I didn't mind Kotaro, the ninja, because I actually like, oh, he has a projectile attack, he has a different kind of mobility from Jubei. So at least it felt like, oh, I'm playing as a distinct sort of character. There are, different things going on. What this game reminds me of is Castlevania 3 for the NES, where what does that game do? It introduces branching paths and it introduces new characters you can play as, so, increased replayability. It introduces more stuff, but I hesitate to call it better stuff.